This is the Cliff Yates Show. Personal growth, motivation, inspiration, and philosophies for a great life.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Cliff Yates Show. You are in the right place. Let's make 2025 our best year ever. I took some notes today because I want to always be learning and sharing with you. Let's make 2025 our greatest year ever. We can do it. And let's start tonight. Let's start today. There's too much of, after New Year's, I'm going to be doing this. I'm going to start doing that. Let's start tonight. That's going to send a message to our brain that we're putting off procrastination. We're getting into action. Let's change our thinking now, which is going to change what we do. It's going to change our results. And we are going to be having a great year. And part of that plan on having a great year is what I also do daily. Let's look back. Let's re-examine what we did this year. I bet you, along with me, we forgot a lot of the great things we did. And I don't remember a lot of the great things. A lot of the bad things that I made mistakes with, I forgot those too. So we really need to reflect and remember those things, because it's going to help us going forward. I think it was Aristotle who said an unexamined life is not worth living. So we really need to examine I examine my life every day. So every night before I go to bed, I check what I did for the day. I check some notes that I took. I review what I did, what worked, what was great today, what was not so good. What do I want to make sure that I do not repeat. And so I look at the day. Well, now we need to look at this year. And so I was actually listening to Mel Robbins, who I think is probably listened to by mostly women, but I'm sure there's a lot of guys who listen to Mel Robbins also. And she is fantastic. And she has millions of followers, and she has some great books out there. She has great messages on all her podcast episodes. And so I actually listen quite frequently to Mel Robbins, and I listen to three other people very regularly where I get my messages from. So I took some notes today so that we can kind of start planning next year tonight, taking action tonight. And one of the ideas that she had, which I thought was really great, and I did the same thing too, go to your camera roll, right? Go back to January and start looking at those pictures, and then you'll start, special moments that you took pictures of, and you, oh wow, I forgot we did that together. I forgot we went to New York this January for the second time. I forgot because we just got back from New York, right? Matter of fact, that was the lesson from last January was, hey, we got to New York because we hadn't made reservations during Christmas time for our Hilton Grand Vacations in Midtown Manhattan. So we couldn't get any rooms during Christmas time. So we said next year. So this year we made sure that we went during Christmas time. And why? Because January, all the rooms were open. It was easy to get a room, and we enjoyed going, and we enjoyed New York. However, we really did miss the Christmas hustle and bustle. We missed being in the hotel, the Hilton, the owner's lounge every night, full of people getting ready to go out to Broadway shows, going out to dinner, dressing up in their Christmas outfits, and the mood was very contagious. And so this year we hit it. But I almost forgot. See, when I went through the pictures, I realized we went in January in 2024. And so we went also in December 20. So we went twice this year already. So January, so great pictures in New York. So I had forgotten about that trip. So go through your pictures and remember those things, those moments in time that you took pictures of that were very important. Maybe things that you did that you want to remember and you want to repeat going forward. And just put those positive memories into your head right now as you get ready to go forward in 2025. And so I did that. And if you don't have a lot in January, February, March, then that's a reminder going forward. Take lots of pictures. I remember going to see the business motivational speaker and the philosopher Jim Rohn back in the 90s, early 90s. He said, take a lot of pictures. Don't you wish your grandparents had all these bundles and bundles of pictures? And they're hard to find. Our grandparents didn't take a lot of pictures. So take a lot of pictures. And at the time, you had to buy film. And now there's no excuse. We take beautiful pictures with our cameras. It cost absolutely nothing. And especially now that you know at the end of 2025, you're going to look back through those pictures to remember those special moments. So I just got back from upstate New York in Rochester, my hometown, Caledonia, New York, little small town, and spent time with Mom and my aunt. My mom, who's 90. Okay, she said she's 90, but she's really 89. She's 89 and a half, but she likes to already say, well, I'm getting used to it, so I'm telling everybody that I'm 90. So, and then my aunt, who is 93, going to be turning 94 in March. And so I got to spend some special moments with them during a white Christmas this year. Very special to have a lot of snow, and it really was a genuine a white Christmas this year. Really took lots of pictures, and going to remember at the end of 2025, going to look back. So look back through your pictures on your camera roll, and you're going to be reminded of probably a lot of the things that you did and experienced that you should take note of. Take note of your accomplishments, your special moments together with family and friends. And maybe there's some things that were tough that you got through. Maybe they were very, very tragedies that you made it through. And maybe those pictures are going to remind you. So use your camera roll. I never thought about that before, but you can go through by month and remember those times. And you can do the same thing with Facebook. And, people complain about social media, but you can actually use Facebook. It'll say, create your 2024 memories, and it'll actually create a photo book for you. And it puts all those pictures together that if you want, of course, if you want to pay, they'll print out a picture book for you. But you can just go through for zero money, and you can look at those memories throughout the year. So that was something I took a note of that I got from Mel Robbins that I thought was really good. So I went beyond that because I really enjoyed, doing the podcast with you and for you, with you this past year. And now we're on, this is year 2 that I've done the podcast on a weekly basis, never missing a week until I think this past week when I was upstate New York. But still did a weekly podcast. Just didn't hit it this past Thursday. But I haven't missed in 2 years doing a weekly podcast. And I've loved all the interviews that I did with so many people around the world when I was part of a service called Podmatch. And it matches you up with other podcasters and guests of all different races, creeds, colors, beliefs, and ideologies, and theories, and all sorts of great people that I met throughout the world. And those podcasts were such a pleasure that I got to meet those people, share ideas, and always learn from them, taking notes as I did today. And I was thinking today, and here's an idea going forward in 2025, right? So you take a class, maybe online, or you go somewhere, you take a webinar, you take an online class, or you go somewhere to hear somebody speak, and you take your notebook and you take notes so you can remember some of the important messages that people said, right? You see it, you write it. It's a good way of learning, taking notes. But I was thinking today when I was taking notes, we get together with our close friends and acquaintances, people that know, like, and trust us. So they're always coming at us, hopefully, if you're around the right people, with honesty and humility. And they like, know, and trust us. And so we get to know the innermost thoughts that they have, the innermost successes that they have. And do we take notes when we have a little sit-downs with these people and we have coffee? No, we should actually take notes, right? Even my wife, she comes up with amazing nuggets of knowledge and just all sorts of great nuggets of wisdom that she has garnered throughout the years. And I started taking notes on what she tells me, and I'm going to do that more in 2025. I'm going to do that when I get together with some friends and we get together for coffee. I'm going to, when they give me a nugget of wisdom, I'm going to take notes. Now, if I don't have a notepad with me, I'll just do it on my phone, and maybe I'll look at it later, transfer it later to my daily journal, so that at the end of the night, when I review and examine my day, I'll have those notes and I'll remember those nuggets of wisdom that I got from a family, friend, or acquaintance that I haven't been taking notes of, because it's usually just a casual get-together, right? We're just getting together, catching up. What have you been doing? But those are really probably the times when people share with us some great successes, or maybe some failures, because we have a close relationship with them. They are willing to to share with us those failures and those maybe things that tragedies they've had to endure and get through, but yet maybe the learning that they garnered through getting through this tough situation and made them grow, we can actually benefit from that ourselves. Now, if we remember it, fine, but if we don't take a note, we might not, right? We're taking in information all day, every day. Sometimes it's too much. And the brain is very efficient. It learns to generalize. It learns to delete what it thinks is not important. So the brain is constantly trying to figure out, is this important or not? If not, I don't need to keep it in my memory bank. Your brain does a great job doing that. So we take notes. It tells the brain, oh, this is important. I need to remember it. That's why sometimes you'll take notes and you'll say, wow, I didn't even have to refer to my notes on this. Well, because you took the note, it told your brain this is important to you, and your brain remembered it, and it was easy to reference and look back on. So not only did I go through my camera roll, I went through my podcast video episodes on YouTube, which told me and reminded me, because each one has a thumbnail with a picture of the person I interviewed, or if it was a solo episode I did myself, it was the title of what I talked about. It reminded me of that subject. But definitely the picture of the person I interviewed reminded me of our time together and our conversation together, and what great moments that I spent with them. I had great episodes and podcasts with my mom, and also with Alba, my wife, and she's committed this next year to sit down with me. She said she would do it on a weekly basis and be on the podcast. So I'm hoping she will follow through that. I know she will, because I'll remind her, because I took a note of it. So I also did a couple podcasts with Tom Vasile, my best friend for the past 45, 50 years. And Tom Tom is an amazing Christian believer, and he's a pastor now, an official pastor. He's always been a pastor for the past 10, 15 years, but he's an official pastor. And we just did an episode on the chaplaincy that he's involved with for the Rochester, New York Police Department, also the Monroe County Sheriff's Department, and what he does in a chaplaincy, what he does for the officers, what he does for people at tragedies and people who are in crisis where the police show up, and then the police can actually use the chaplains as a tool to help with family victims. And it's a good partnership that they do. And it was interesting to hear how the police departments are interacting and accepting chaplaincy. And the chief of the Rochester, New York Police Department actually went through the training himself to become a chaplain. So obviously, he's definitely promotes the program, and it's great for the officers, and it's great for people who are of faith, who need maybe a chaplain at the scene. So Tom and I, we did a great episode. We did a great episode on his heart transplant. That's what I was getting to. He had a heart transplant. The guy, the faith that he exhibited when he was going through his heart transplant, he had to really lean into the Bible, lean into the Word of God that he had always been preaching, right, in his local church and preaching to officers during his chaplaincy. Now, personally, he had to rely on his faith. He had to rely on God. He had to talk to God even more personally than he already did. And if you hear the story, if you watch the podcast episode, you'll know, as you probably already know, there's a God in that, in what he's done in Tom's life for that heart transplant. Unbelievable. And what he's doing, and God is working through him today as he survived. It's been less than a year that he had that transplant, and he was able to survive and thrive after the transplant to the point where he actually, this past summer, right, 6 to 7 months after his heart transplant, he was able to baptize Alba and I at the St. Lawrence River. And so God, working through him, touched us in a very special way. And I just did an episode with a fellow retiree of the LA County Sheriff's Department, Ralph Ornelas, and it was so great talking with him. And a lot of people, and Ralph is now one of those people, but at times because I'm human, I'm not a robot, and neither are you, I know that. At times, when I'm feeling a little sad, or maybe I'm not so motivated, inspired to do the podcast, I get re-inspired, re-motivated to get it done by words of encouragement that just happen to always come through at the right time when I need it, when I need to hear them. Maybe it'll be quite a while before I hear anything through a comment or direct message, but then somebody will send me a message and tell me, hey, what you said really hit home with me. I changed the way I was thinking, which changed what I was doing, and now it's put me on a different path to some great, great things. And I want to thank you. And let me tell you, when I get those messages, I'm good for 100 days. 3.5 months, I'm good. Once I hear that, and I guess it's an ego thing that we shouldn't really need to have that encouragement. And maybe going forward in 2025, I will try to keep conscious of that. But Ralph Ornelas came on to the podcast talking about, now here's a guy, 36 and a half years with the LA County Sheriff's Department. After that, he became chief of police of Westminster. And you got to hear that guy's story, his episodes. He's on LinkedIn also because he's gone around over 10 schools giving talks on the danger of fentanyl. And I think he's probably saved a lot of lives by the information he's got out there to young students who have listened to his talks. Over 2,000 students he's talked to, and I'm sure that he's, through his testimony and through his knowledge of fentanyl and what they can do to try to evade being killed by this tragic poison. I'm sure he's saved lives that we may not know how many lives he's saved. But I remember Ralph on the Sheriff's Department because I knew that he was coming in as a new captain, and I must have been going out to patrol or a different assignment because I just remember him coming into the central jail and him introducing himself to me, or I just said hello to him in passing. Maybe we had some words. I just remember, and I went back and saw a video of his interview with a news reporter when he was chief of Westminster, and the news reporter said, "This man, he has contagious optimism." And I just remember meeting him and thinking, "Wow, this guy, he's got a positive aura about him. He's got a positive attitude about him." I wish I didn't want to keep staying at Men's Central Jail because it was such a hellhole to work at. But I thought, wow, to work under a positive guy like this, right? Just in a couple seconds that I was interacting with him, I got that from him. So to have him come on the podcast and tell me what he was going through at that time, which was that he was transferred from an elite unit to Men's Central Jail as captain, really without any conversation. In other words, a friend called him and said, "Guess what? You're transferred to Central Jail." "What?" "Yeah, I just saw it on the transfer list." They didn't even have the respect to, tell him that he was being transferred. He found out through a friend watching the teletype come out of the transfer list that he was being transferred. And so it was interesting that he told me that his brother told him at the time, "Hey, listen, you remember, keep your shoes shine, uniform looking tight. Your dad was a Marine. Listen, keep your head held high. Don't let what they did to you affect. You know what the right thing is to do. Walk into that Men's Central Jail with your head high, and you represent yourself the way you know you should be." And that's when I ended up meeting him. Little did I know he was going through this. He just had a joyous, contagious attitude about him. So I remembered that and this is probably 25 years ago. And then I got to talk to him just a couple weeks ago on the podcast here, and he told me that's what he was going through. It reminds me of the book by Stephen Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, right? That's the message in the book, is you never know what somebody's going through. He told a story of someone on a subway train, and 2 kids were acting up on the train, running around screaming and yelling. And the guy said something to it turned out to be the father of the 2 boys that, about, keeping his kids, reined in. He either looked at him that way or he said something to him, and the father said, "Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, I should keep these kids in line. We just came from the funeral of their mother, and I don't think they know how to process that." So you never know what somebody's going through, and I always keep that story in mind. And now I'm going to keep the story of Ralph Ornelas in mind, because it's so close in my memory of him telling me that story, and it's personal now, someone I know personally. Even though he was going through, he could have had a negative attitude about what happened to him. He came without that. But had he come with that, I would have been powerful for me to remember, who knows what this guy's going through. So I always try to remind myself, when someone brings negativity and toxicity to you in their attitude, guess what? That's a present that you don't have to accept. And if you don't accept it, guess who owns it? They do. So we don't have to accept those types of attitudes. So when people come to us with those things, we're going to leave that with them. And we're not going to return evil for evil or just negativity for negativity. We are not going to let that, we're not going to give them that power. Don't give away your power. That's a good lesson for 2025. So Ralph Ornelas said to me when he started the podcast, and he had no way of knowing, but he said, hey, thanks for your message the other day in your podcast about health, fitness, eating the right things, and this and that. And that was a great message. Thank you. And I had to tell him, I had to be blatantly honest with him and say, you know what, I'm glad you said that, because when I did that episode, I was thinking, does anybody really listen? The numbers aren't that big on these podcasts. Maybe some of these messages fall on deaf ears, and maybe I should go in a different direction. And no one wants to hear about this self-improvement, motivation, inspiration. Maybe I should be talking more about the news. And so, no, Ralph said, listen, your message resonated with me. It's important that you share those things. And it came right at the right time. It just seems like those messages always come through at the right time. Have you had that experience where you get a message like that, a moment of encouragement from somebody, and it comes just at the right time? I mean, that's just a God's gift, I think. But it came at the right time. But I was looking at Patrick Davis, who someone I connected with on Instagram, who's a fellow fitness enthusiast and into physical fitness. And turns out after we connected, I found out he was from my hometown. So I had him on the podcast. And then I find out not only is he from my hometown, and he graduated a few years after I did from my small high school, but then he also went on to join the NYPD. And that was something I wanted to do, but I ended up getting hired at the LA County Sheriff's Department first, so we got to talk about NYPD, and now we've continued our friendship and our relationship. And as a matter of fact, when I was in upstate New York, I walked past his parents' house on East Avenue in the village of Caledonia. So I'm reflecting on my podcast to remind me of those positive things we talked about and the ideas that we shared, so I can remember those. Even my wife's podcast, which was really one of the most viewed on my show, was my wife was so forthcoming in talking about her battle with depression, how she dealt with it, how she got through it, what she's doing today on a daily basis in the fight with depression. And people really came forward with a lot of personal direct messages to us about what they're going through in suffering depression and trying to get through that. And we were really, we were humbled by some of the messages we got, and hear some of the people that have been struggling with depression. And so that was a very important episode that we did, because people really, they appreciated that Alba was willing to be vulnerable and talk about it. Nobody wants to talk about these things, and as we have found out, which reminded me of another episode by Danny Kuhn, who Danny, another fellow retired sergeant, he's been taking up the battle. These people are, I just love that these fellow retirees and myself, we still want to serve. And Danny Kuhn is really serving and trying to battle PTSD for first responders, and just really paying attention to what's going on with first responder suicides and police suicides, and what the causes are, and what can we do. And we have to be available to people who may want to call us and talk to us. We got to be there for our brothers and sisters. We're always there on the job, right? In a crisis, a chaotic situation, to be there as backup, to render assistance, to put our lives in the line for our fellow brothers and sisters. But we're not maybe always conscious of when they may need us after an incident or after a career. And so, boy, it was just, we had a great episode, and Danny Kuhn's really turned me on to a lot of resources that are available for helping first responders deal with PTSD. And if you want to really be open and honest, all police officers are suffering from PTSD. You have to, just based on the sheer volume of the death you see on a daily basis and what really you can do to really siphon off that stress, which you can do, but it really must be mitigated by really exercise, nutrition, and not only physically, but mentally too, in the physical affects the mental. So even an exercise program or getting out in fresh air, getting a different perspective can not only help us physically, but also mentally. And boy, it's so important. So I've been learning a lot about that. Then I had a podcast episode with Dave Albin, who really, he became an expert in the fire walk. And he ran the fire walk for Tony Robbins for numerous years. He's taught other companies and people to put on their own put on their own fire walks all over the world. And what a great motivator he was. The energy that he brought to that podcast, you can tell just being in proximity to Tony Robbins and the people and the team, that even I'm getting fired up right now just thinking about our podcast episode, right? I have an association with him and I talking and the positive energy that we had during, so that's even firing me up. So you can use that when you look back right now on situations that fired you up. Take a look at those. Look at them in pictures. Remember those and emotions. Physically remember the time. Go back to that time and think how you felt, how you acted, what you did, and you'll see that you create the same emotions all over again. And going forward, take that as a tool when you need to get yourself in a more positive state. You can do that. And Pat Jordan, another fellow LA County Sheriff retiree who's gone on. He has several podcasts. He's really into the politics of what's going on in our culture and the world, and he's doing a great job with Coffee with the Chief. And he has a podcast where we do it has to do with culture, and Morning Coffee with the Chief, and we review movies dealing with police. And I love revisiting these movies together. So we get on there, 2 to 3 of us, and we review a movie, a police movie, and we go over it through tactics and culture, what was going on at the time, training. Is it realistic? Really, would it transfer to today's world? And because I have to watch these movies for homework, I get to experience these movies all over again. And then my wife, she sits down and watch with me, right? She says, do you have any homework tonight? Because we always looking for a new show or a movie to watch. So when I have homework to watch a movie, most of the time it's movies that we saw many years ago, but it's been so long we've forgotten why we liked them or what's good or bad about the movie. So we get to experience the movie again. Pat Jordan, thank you very much. So hopefully I'll continue to be on his show as we review these movies. It really, really feeds my soul to do that. Vic Ferrari, not his real name, a retired Through the Looking Glass. Vic Ferrari, his podcast is taking off, and he has some books out by the same name where he tells amazing stories about the NYPD, his experience. A lot of them are just so humorous, so funny. And it's so good that he's sharing that with everybody, because that's what we used to do back in the day, 70s, 80s. That was very common. As patrol officers, we would get together with family or just get with each other over coffee, kitchen table, telling police stories, funny police stories. You know what happened to me? I was going here. I had a call about this, and it was, looking back, now we can laugh about it, or maybe it was funny from the beginning. And we just shared stories with each other, and maybe family and friends are around the kitchen table with us, and they get to experience those same funny stories. And a lot of times we share these funny stories, right? And our spouses, wife and or husband, depending on who you are, well, they've heard these stories sometimes too many times, because we'll tend to repeat these stories. So that was good for me to look back. And so I've already done that, because I'm starting right now. I'm not starting January 1, right? I'm starting tonight, and I want you to do the same. Get ready for 2025. We're starting now. There's no reason to wait. And one of the things that I guess I do on a daily basis when I review my day, but Mel Robbins talked about doing this in a more structured way, and it's something I never thought about doing in an intentional way, which was stop, start, continue. So I'm going to start doing this. I'm going to start in the start part. I'm going to start when I review my day. I'm going to review as I always do, but now I'm going to do it more intentionally. Okay, then what happened today that was not good that I did? Okay, I'm going to stop doing that. Then, what should I have done? What should I start doing tomorrow? And what am I going to continue to do? What did I do that was really positive? Hey, I can continue to do that on a daily basis. So Mel Robbins calls it stop, start, continue. So as you look back through your pictures, through your memories, as you look back, get ready to go forward in 2025, and I see that I'm talking way too fast. What I'm going to do going forward in 2025 is keep the energy up, but try to articulate more my words and not run over my words, speaking too rapidly, because my mind races too far ahead of my voice. And so I stumble over my words. So I'm going to try to be more articulate in my words. I'm going to start doing that right now, not in 2025, but right now, going forward from tonight. So stop, start, continue. As you review your year, looking back, getting ready to go forward for your greatest year ever, look at what you're going to stop doing. Look at what you're going to start doing. And look what you're going to continue to do. Mel Robbins even looked back at some of the things she said she was going to start doing that she didn't do. Listen, don't be too hard on yourself. Sometimes we might change directions, change focus, and that's okay to do that. So I'm going to start doing that. Keeping track on a daily basis, what I'm going to stop, start, and what I'm going to continue. One thing I'm going to stop doing, I took this note down when I was listening to Mel Robbins, I'm going to stop adding things. I'm going to stop adding things. You know, it's so true that yes, you can do anything you want, but you just can't do everything you want because there's not enough time. And when you get that unlimited mindset, you start to realize, I could do that. But you know what? We have to kind of pare down, and we got to start niching down things. And maybe something that we want to do will be put off. Maybe that'll be a different season for that. Right now, we're going to be doing this, this, and this. So I tend to keep adding things. And when you do, you dilute what you're going to be effective at. Now, it is true. Now, I heard this from Gary Vee today, who's also a marketing guru, young guy in his 30s, I believe. Gary Vaynerchuk, who wrote the book Crush It, and he said just what I was saying. You can do anything you want. You can do anything. It doesn't mean you're going to be really good at it. And that's something you have to accept. And you know what? You can decide to be fulfilled with that. If that's your passion and you want to do it, you can do it. Now, you may not be really great at it. You can get better and better, but you might not get to the level your mind and imagination would like you to get at. But you know what? If that's your passion, keep doing it. That's going to be the way going forward, I think, for life fulfillment. People are going to be okay with saying, you know what? I'm not going to win an Olympic gold medal in this, but I love doing it. I love competing in it, and I'm going to continue doing it because it feeds my passion. So I'm going to stop adding things to the point where it's detrimental. And this year, you know, I've been reading about 45, 50 books a year. So I don't know how radical I'm going to go with this, but instead of reading 50 books a year, maybe I'll read one book 50 times. Because that is more important, to immerse yourself in an idea, a philosophy, an ideology that's positive, can have a positive impact on yourself and the world. There's only one way to immerse yourself, and that's really to keep repeating some, you know, I'm going to read less books more often. I do read books, many of them, more than once, twice. I'm going to try to read some this year 5 times. Let's see. You know what I'm going to do, too? You know what we got to do? We got to lean into positivity. 2025, I'm going to lean even harder into positivity, but at the same time being self-aware. Gary Vee was talking about something. He has something called, it's the self-aware hare. It has to do with the tortoise and the hare, right? lessons you can learn from that parable, that little story of the tortoise and the hare. Slow and steady wins the race, right? So we need to really lean into positivity, but at the same time, be aware, be self-aware of what's going on. It's okay to be up on culture and current culture and what's happening in our lives, in our world, but we can get caught up. We can get caught up in the 24-hour news cycle. And so I like that Gary Vee talked today about maybe removing 1 hour, cut out 1 hour of negativity. Right? If you start, oh man, get rid of that victim mentality. Oh, the president's this is here. If this was the economy, no. Pay attention to what's going on. Become self-aware. But if you can, cut out 1 hour of negativity. Cut out an hour of news and add an hour of positivity, either through maybe watching and or listening or reading. Cut out an hour of negative. Can you imagine what that's going to do for your life? As you get to a year, do that on a daily basis for 365 days. Self-awareness, so important in street survival and police work. Self-awareness, knowing your surroundings, being aware of your surroundings. And now in this world, this crazy world, you and me today, we need to pay attention to our surroundings, be self-aware. People will notice that you're self-aware. People that normally victimize people, they know who's paying attention. They know who's self-aware. Maybe like me, you always put your grocery cart away. It's just something you do. It's like a karma thing. No matter what, you take your grocery cart and you walk it across the parking lot and put it away. Well, listen, maybe you notice. Maybe you're a young lady and it's getting dark and you notice you're in a little sketchy neighborhood. Maybe tonight, as you unload your car, as you unload your grocery cart, maybe it wouldn't be so smart to walk the grocery cart across the parking lot in this particular neighborhood. You're self-aware of what's going on, right? You're paying attention. So you unload, maybe in this situation, you're smart. You make the choice, I'm going to leave my cart here. There's somebody who's going to take care of this cart. But I'm in a sketchy neighborhood. It's getting late at night, dark. Not going to take a chance. I'm going to get in the car, lock the doors, and start heading home. So self-awareness, so important. I'm going to fight this year. I'm going to fight to bring light wherever I go, right? Let's fight to bring light. Be a light. Really, it's biblical, isn't it? If we are truly in a spiritual war, and I believe we are, and most people do, whether you're a believer or not, take a look around, be self-aware. I believe we are in a spiritual war, but we're not going to fight evil by returning evil for evil. We are going to demolish darkness, not by attacking. You can't attack darkness. You can't. You try going into a room and pulling darkness out. You can't, but you can destroy by bringing light in. So light destroys the darkness. I'm going to fight to be a bright light. You can do the same. I'm going to maximize this year for relationships. Let's maximize for relationships. That's so important. In work, relationships, important. I've talked about this many times, how important relationships are at work. And if you become an expert at developing relationships at work, you're going to be an expert at home with family, friends, neighbors, the waitress, the mechanic. You're going to get used to being better at communicating with other people, right? Receiving their message and make sure they get the right message from you. You can get better and better at this every day in every way. I work on this on a daily basis. Sometimes I fall back a little bit, but we can always be self-aware of how we're communicating. How our message is received is a good indicator of how we are communicating. We can look to ourselves to do that better. So I'm going to make sure that I'm still driven by love. And when I say that, because I think a lot of people, myself included, initially I was driven. I'm very driven. Initially I was driven as a young man many years ago. I was driven by hurt feelings. That's a great driver. Anger is a great driver. So energetic you can be when you're angry. Boy, does that create a lot of energy. Right? Hey, how come you're always pissing your husband off? Because every time he gets mad at me, he starts cleaning the garage. So I piss him off because the garage needs cleaning. We can divert our anger and use that energy and transmute it to a positive thing. So, but we can do that with positivity too. So it's okay if I was initially as a young man driven by hurt, right? Anger. Hurt turns into anger. It's a big driver, a big energy. But that should eventually transition. And if you haven't had that happen to you already, work on transitioning your driven energy and be driven by love and not by hurt. You're going to have the same amount, but you're going to have a different impact on other people when your energy and your drive is driven by love for not only yourself, but other people. All right, listen, we got to put this message out to the world, man, that Gary Vee was talking about, hey, we are one team, and that's the human team, the human race. There's only one race, the human race, although society, culture, always with the dividing, trying to divide not only deep state government and all sorts of evilness is trying to divide us. Otherwise, we are going to come together as one human race. And that war is a war, and we need to fight that. We are one team, even though I understand we separate into tribes naturally. Football teams, right? Our team, we hate those fans, and we're Jets fans, and we wear those jerseys, and we're a tribe of New York Jets and Jets fans, but those are silly things. Those are silly things, and we have a lot of people who take that mentality into real life. But no, we are one. It's in the Bible, right? There is neither Jewish nor Gentile, man, female, woman. There's only, we are brothers and sisters in Christ. We are of one. We are of one. So I think I'm going to go over this book going forward in 2025. It's the American Covenant. So watch out for that. We're going to hit that. That really speaks to our country, biblically based, and how the founders of our country were really had a foundation in the Bible thoughts, actions, beliefs, theology had a big part of our country. And maybe if we get the country back to God, can you imagine what's going to happen? Going forth with truth and grace. Jesus Christ, they talk about in Bible, he was truth and grace. You could not separate it. Our pastor used to pour 2 glasses of water into a big cup. One is truth, one is grace. And you look at that, which is which? You can't separate it. They come together. In Jesus' name, they come together, truth and grace. Going forward in 2025, let's be very truthful. If you truly love somebody in your life, that does not come with lies. We got to be truthful with grace. I'm going forward to 2025 with humility and honesty. So write that down in your notes. I know you're taking notes. Now, Brad Lee is another guy, a business guy that I really love his content. He talked today about truth is like poetry. Not everybody likes it. But truth is truth. Not everybody's going to like it. That's not our business, whether they like it or not, but let's live in truth, grace, humility. Going forward, 2025, this is exciting, guys. Come on, not everybody likes it. But love isn't lies. And if you truly love somebody, lies can't be a part of your life with them. Going forward, if you want to know your net worth and you want your net worth to grow, then you need to have your self-worth grow too. Brad Lee, and I don't know if this is true. I haven't done this, but he's put this out on a couple of podcasts. Brad Lee, he said he actually typed into Chat GPT, right? Artificial intelligence. He said he typed in there, what would Satan do if he wanted to prevent somebody from being successful? Number one, he said that Chat GPT came back and said, number one, Satan would fill their mind with doubt and fear. Satan would fill their mind with doubt and fear. Number 2, he would have them focus on instant gratification. 3, he would surround them with negative influence, negative people. 4, he would make sure that they remained comfortable. 5, he would use procrastination as an advantage. 6, he would erode their confidence. 7, he would focus externally. He would make them focus on external things, not on internal things. He would have them develop poor habits. He would remove their sense of urgency. And so what Brad said was, so if you want to be successful, just reverse those things, right? Get rid of doubt and fear. Have courage. Read Scripture. Read the Bible. And what you're going to find is, not only did Jesus, but the apostles said numerous times, angels said, be not afraid. Have good courage. Be of good courage. You want to get rid of doubt and fear? Be courageous. Take action on things, right? If you don't procrastinate, you will get rid of fear. So you do the opposite of what Satan told ChatGPT Satan would do, right? Surround with negative influence. No, get rid of negative people. Get around positive people. They're going to pull you, who are going to push you, who are going to make you better. So cut out the amount of time you spend with negative people. Get yourself uncomfortable. Put yourself in uncomfortable situations. Get used to being uncomfortable. Start to like it. I like when I push myself to make myself grow. Don't procrastinate. Start doing right now. Don't wait. Don't get in it. The devil's in the details. Satan would have you be never-ending planning. Forget that. Take action on that right now. Take action on that idea right now. I know you're not ready, but do it anyways. You'll get better and better each day. You're going to do a podcast, start tomorrow. You don't have a camera, use your phone. People have filmed full-length feature films that have won awards on their iPhones. You can use it for your podcast. Later on, you want to get a different camera, you can do it. Start now. You want to have a microphone for your podcast, you can get a lavalier mic, you can get a clip-on, great sound, $20. If not, just use the microphone on your camera. Start now. Kill procrastination, because you know Satan uses that as one of his tools. And he has limited amount of tools. So they're not that many, but he uses them all the time. Now you know, and that's how you combat those. He would erode their confidence. Get self-confidence. How do you get confidence? By building up your wins. Bradley talked about that already. Man, get your wins, right? Start, and you decide what wins are. Brad Lee says winning is when he wakes up in the morning. He wakes up and he legitimately smiles and is happy that he woke up. He considers that a win. When he brushes his teeth, he considers that as a win. Then he works out. He considers that a win. He reads. He considers that a win. Get up early. That's another win. He reads the Bible. That's a win. By the time he starts his work day, he's already racked up so many wins in his mind. He decides what a win is, that he has confidence because he's used to winning. Satan would remove a sense of urgency. That's why you got to take action now. Reverse it. Make it urgent. No, I don't have time left. Life is but a whisper. Get after it now. You got to take action, because the world, I like this note that I took today. I would have not remembered this. The world doesn't reward potential. Take action. Start moving. Get after it. Start where you're at. And start going to where you want to be. You got to know the two. If you can decide where you want to go, and that might change down the road. Maybe it'll change tomorrow, next week, or the next month. But pick a destination. Drop a pin in it. Now, before you can start going there, you got to know the other part of the equation. Where are you at? Before you can start your destination on Google Maps, guess what? Where you want to go? And then, where are you at? You have to know where you're at before you decide, or at least before you start out on where you want to go. But take action. The world does not reward potential. Establish good habits, man. Establish good habits. Satan whispers. That's not important. That's Satan whispering. That's not important. Call of Duty. That's fun, man. Do that. That is fun. You don't need to do those other things. Satan would have you focus on the external. Reverse it. Focus on the internal, right? Success is an inside job. No victim mentality. You can't look out there and blame anybody else. Look back toward yourself. Why? Because you have the power over that. That's your power. You have the power. Build your confidence by those wins. Win more often. You decide what is a win. Pick those things and decide their wins. Waking up early, smiling. Get excited about your day. Win every day. So easy to do, man. So easy to do. People pray for strength, then they curse what gives them strength. Pray for strength, but get your ass in the gym. I haven't read it in the Bible, but somebody told me once it's in the Bible. Believe in God, but tie up your horses. Right? God has already done his part. Now you have to do your part. It says in the Bible, it does say, if you do certain things, then you can make yourself prosperous. So God's already done his part. Now it's up to you. If you come to me, I will come to you. Now it's your part to do. You have to do your part. God's done his part. Now if you do your part, you can make yourself prosperous. Too many people are praying for God to make them prosperous. God, make me prosperous. Give me good wealth. God said, if you do these things, if you will read his playbook, if you will meditate on the word, if you will seek first the kingdom, all things will be added. I think that's Matthew 6:33. I didn't plan on saying that, but I know that that is the verse. Seek first the kingdom and all will be added. What if we did that all year in 2025? What effect would that have on our life? So let's eliminate negative people. Let's learn. Let's be self-development practitioners. When I was listening to Brad Lee and he had a coach on, the coach was saying to him, you're a self-development guy, right, Brad? Well, no, I'm a self-development practitioner. And then I realized, oh, wow, I am. That's what I am. I'm a practitioner, right? I don't just talk about these things. I do these things, and then I talk about what I've done. And I get excited to share them with you. Why? First of all, I get to hear these ideas and philosophies all over again, so it helps me. So I'm really hoping to help the second person. The first person is me. I'm self-coaching myself. So I think, man, I'm fired up for 2025. I hope you are. So do these things. Reflect on 2024. Reflect on your wins, all those great things. Look through your camera roll pictures. Look on your videos. Look on Facebook. Look at the great things that you did. Acknowledge your wins and be excited about things you accomplished. Look at the bad things that you went through. You obviously, if you're watching and or listening, you got through those things. I'm sure that it was during those times that you learned the most. And so maybe it was a bitter pill to swallow, but in the end, you have that perspective going forward that you may be not only help yourself, but help other people. And so 2025, let's make it the best year ever, starting tonight. And we can put this in our journal, and we can put this in next year when we look back. Things we're going to continue doing, which is we're going to start our next year before the next year starts. And I think that's a powerful, powerful philosophy that kind of sends a signal to our brain to get rid of procrastination. And this is going to be another message going forward. All right, everybody, that's going to end this episode, December 29th, 2024. Let's get ready for our best year ever, 2025. If you haven't already, please subscribe, to the YouTube channel. If you're listening on a podcast platform, follow the show, subscribe to the show, but also please go over to YouTube. I film this thing with like lights and a camera, and sometimes it's better to put the visual with the audio, and it helps you learn better what we talked about. So I really enjoyed talking to you tonight. All right, everybody, I'll see you in the next episode.